Good morning, students. This is Miss Khyati Dwarkadas welcoming you to the final edition of the month of April of King's Farmers and Towns. And today we're going to do a little more of the source boxes and quickly go over the mind map before we wind up with the chapter. At the same time, I request you to go back to the very first video of Bricks, Beats and Bones where I had shared my Padlet link with you. I'd like you to fill in the Padlet. I'd like you to fill in the Padlet not only for Bricks, Beats and Bones but also for this chapter. I presume you have been doing your notebook work regularly. Do not let it pile up, children. It is grade 12 and the course content is really vast. So the better you finish it on a daily basis. So let's begin with today's topic. Now observe these coins of the Kushan Empire. And in your notebooks, write down how has the king been portrayed. These are coins of the Kushan Empire. So write down in your notebook how has the king been portrayed. Now we come to source 4. It is in praise of Samudragupta. This is an excerpt from Prayag Prashasti. He was without an antagonist on earth. He, by the overflowing of the multitude of his many good qualities, adorned by hundreds of good actions, has wiped off the flame of other kings with the soles of his feet. He is Purush, the supreme being the cause of the posterity of the good and the destruction of the bad. He is incomprehensible. He is the one who has tender heart and can be captured only by devotion and humility. He is possessed by compassion. He is the giver of many hundred thousands of cows. His mind has received ceremonial initiation for the uplift of the miserable, the poor, the forlorn, and the suffering. He is resplendent and embodied kindness to mankind. He is equal to the gods, Kuber, the god of wealth, Varun, the god of the ocean, Indra, the god of the rain, and Yam, the god of death. Now, when you read through this Prayag Prashasti, you automatically know where this Prashasti is heading to. We've done something called the divine right of the king, and you can see that this Prashasti in the period of Samudragupta has taken you through the era of praising the king to equate him to God. So read through the Prashasti again and read through the text around this Prashasti. At the same time, let's move to source 5, the Sudarshan beautiful lake in Gujarat. So on map 2, find Girnar. The Sudarshan lake was an artificial reservoir. We know about it from a rock inscription of the 2nd century CE in Sanskrit composed to record the achievements of the Shaka ruler Rudradaman. The inscription mentions that the lake with the embankments and water channels was built by a local governor during the rule of the Mauryas. However, a terrible storm broke the embankments and water gushed out of the lake. Rudradaman, who was then ruling in the area, claimed to have got the lake repaired using his own resources without imposing any tax on the subjects. Another inscription on the same rock of the 5th century mentions how one of the rulers of the Gupta dynasty got the lake repaired once again. So we have a question for your notebook at the end of this particular source. Why did rulers make arrangements for irrigation? Why did rulers make arrangements for irrigation? So this question to be answered in your notebook. Then we have another source here which talks about the importance of boundaries. The Manusmriti, which is one of the best known legal texts of early India, written in Sanskrit and compiled between 2nd century BC and 2nd century CE, this is what the text advises the king to do. Seeing that in the world controversies constantly arise due to ignorance of boundaries, he should have concealed boundary markers, buried stones, bones, cow's hair, chaff ashes, potsherds, dried cow dung, bricks, coal, pebbles, and sand. He should also have other similar substances, the soil buried as hidden markers at the intersection of boundaries. So would these boundary markers have been adequate to resolve boundary disputes? Is a question we have for the notebook. Uh, if you notice, each of these questions below the source boxes talk about thought-provoking and critical thinking at your end. They may not be direct recall questions, or they may not just be a check of your understanding. They are asking you to think beyond the box, think out of the box, and think critically and creatively. So read the text and write decent, thought-provoking answers. Then we move to source 8, which is about Prabhavati Gupta and the village of Danguna. Now, this is what Prabhavati Gupta states in her inscription. Prabhavati Gupta commands the Grama Kutuma Binas, or the householders, peasants living in the village, Brahmins, and others living in the village of Danaguna. Be it known to you that on the 12th lunar day of the bright fortnight of Kartik, we have, in order to increase our religious merit, donated this village with the pouring out of water to the Acharya, teacher, Chanala, Chanala Swamin. You should obey all his commands. We confer on him the following exemptions typical of an agrahar. This village is not to be entered by soldiers and policemen. It is exempt from the obligation to provide grass, animal hides as seats, and charcoal to touring royal officers. It is exempt from the royal prerogative of purchasing or fermenting liquor and digging salt. It is exempt from the right to mines and khadira trees. It is exempt from the obligation to supply flowers and milk. It is donated together with the right to hidden treasure and deposits and together with major and minor taxes. This charter has been written in the 13th regnal year. It has been engraved by Chakradas. So when you read through this, read through it again, of course, in your textbook and find out what were the things that were produced in the village. Now, when you read through most of this, you realize that a lot of things were produced in the village and these were very useful. So, what was also the intention of having donated such a wealthy village to the Acharya? And what was the respect that was given to Acharya? These are the three questions that come to our minds when we read through the village of Danguna. Source 10 talks about the orders of the king. Thus speaks King Devanampiya Piyadasi or Ashoka, as we know. In the past, there were no arrangements for disposing affairs nor for receiving regular reports. But I have made the following arrangement. Party Vedakas, should report to me about the affairs of the people at all times, anywhere, whether I'm eating in the inner apartment, in the bedroom, in the cow pen, being carried possibly in a palanquin or in the garden, and I will dispose of the affairs of the people everywhere. Now, epigraphists have translated the term Pativedaka as reporter. In what ways would the functions of the Pativedaka have been different from those who generally associate with the reporters today? Now, that's another question we have for your notebook. And over here, you will be seeing uh, two project options. Project, you have to do any one of the two, and I'll explain how to go about doing it. Collect newspapers for 1 month. Now you can either do it in your holidays or you can check the previous newspapers. Cut and paste all the statements made by government officials about public works. Note what the reports say about the resources required, how the resources are mobilized and the objective of the project, who issues these statements, how and what and why are they communicated. Compare and contrast these with the evidence from the inscriptions discussed in the chapter. What are the similarities and differences that you notice? So all of this comes as one part of the project in project 1. And in project 2, we have collect 5 different kinds of currency notes and coins in circulation today. For each one of these, describe what you see on the obverse and on the reverse. That is the front and back. Prepare a report on the common features as well as the differences in terms of picture, script, language, size, shape, and any other element that you find significant. Compare these with the coins shown in the chapter discussing the materials used, the techniques of minting, and the visual symbols and their significance and possible functions that coins may have had. So we have these possible project options. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to share one Google tool with you. So now, when you look at the link below, I've added the link. When you click on this link below, it opens to an interactive notebook. I'd like you to visit this interactive notebook. I'll share the link with you in the description box. I'd like you to visit this interactive notebook. It's very good to create a project. So just give me a moment. Yes, so it opens to this particular page. So you can create your notebook title, and no matter what the project you're doing, you can add to this. It's on Google Slides, so you can add to it. You can create it as interactively as possible, and you can share it with me. So what you do is what I can see directly. And it becomes fun to work on, right? There's a lot you can do with the interactive notebook. So I shall share the link in the description box for you to work on. You may download it, make a copy and work on it and share it with me. All right? So as we proceed, this is finally the mind map of the entire chapter for you to sum it up. We've done it in bits and pieces. We've done it as a whole. We've done it as a revision. We've done the source boxes. We've done, by now you would have finished your project work. But just because I don't want you to forget the chapter, I am sharing this with you. You can quickly go through it and feel free to add whatever you want. Great. Thus, thank you. Have a great day. Enjoy your holidays and keep working.